So let's move on to chapter 2.2.2 now, which will give us the second postulate. And this is evolution. So this is sort of what a quantum state is. Now, how is it going to change in time? That's what the second postulate is going to tell us. So postulate 2 says the evolution, again, of an isolated quantum system, is unitary. All evolution of quantum states has to be unitary. This means that if I have some state psi, and it's going to evolve in time and give me some other state psi prime, then this has to be related to the original state by a unitary matrix U. And of course, I'll remind you that unitary means U dagger U is equal to the identity matrix. So this is the state at time t2, and this is the state at some other time t1. They're related by unitary dynamics, the application of a unitary matrix. So let's see some examples of this. Make it a little more concrete. Let's see some single qubit unitaries. So some single qubit unitaries. Two of them you should have seen. So poly X is equal to the matrix 0, 1, 1, 0. And poly Z is the matrix 1, 0, 0, minus 1. We've written these down. Both of these happen to be unitary matrices. So these are allowable quantum evolutions, and we're going to come to know and love them as operations, gates that we apply in quantum circuits. So how would these affect our computational basis states? Let's think of applying X to the 0 states. Who could tell me what this is equal to? So I'm starting in the 0 state. I'm using the second postulate to evolve it to some other state in time. And the particular unitary that we're considering is the poly X matrix. X acting on the 0 state would give me
0, 1.
the vector 0, 1, exactly right. And in terms of these basis vectors, ket 0 and ket 1, that is? Anyone? Ket 1, exactly right. So you'll notice I'm doing it just speaking. So often say ket 0 or ket 1, but sometimes we'll just say 0 and 1. So the 0 state and the 1 state. So hopefully the context should be clear. So I would say this as X applied to the 0 state, or X acting on 0, is the 1 state. Yeah? And what about the reverse? What if I wanted to apply X to ket 1? X acting on the 1 state would be ket 0 in this case. Okay? So this gives you a way to remember this if you haven't committed the matrix to memory already. Hopefully you have. But look at the analog of what's happening here. In classical computing, what operation maps the bit 0 to 1 and the bit 1 to 0? The NOT gate, exactly right. So poly X is nothing more than the quantum equivalent of the NOT gates. And we will sometimes just refer to it as the NOT gates or poly X. Let's think about poly Z acting on these two computational basis states. Who could tell me what Z acting on ket 0 is equal to? So formally, how could you do this? You could use the definition of this matrix and the definition of this vector. So this would be this matrix 1, 0, 0, minus 1 applied to this vector 1, 0. And you could do the rule for matrix vector multiplication. The better way would be to remember that the first column of the matrix is exactly this expression. So first meaning 0th, we index at 0. So I would look at this column of the matrix, I see that's 1, 0, and I remember immediately that that's the 0 state. So this is just ket 0. Using this same reasoning, who could tell me what z acting on the 1 state is? Exactly right, minus ket 1. You could use the same reasoning. I look at this. I know this is going to give me the second column of the matrix, and that's equal to a minus sign times the ket 1 state. So who could tell me what the classical version of this operation is that maps 0 to 0 and 1 to minus 1? It's a trick question. There is no equivalent. So this is a uniquely quantum thing. Minus signs, negative numbers don't really make sense in classical computing. We argue you could have probabilities, but those are going to be positive real numbers. So this is, in a way, there's no equivalent to this in classical computing. We would refer to this as a phase flip, whereas this poly x, the NOT gate, we would call a bit flip. So poly x being a bit flip, maps 0 to 1, 1 to 0. Poly z is a phase flip, 0 to 0, 1 to minus 1. For now, the phase is just the sign that appears outside of the state, and formally we'll define that later. Questions about this example? I want to write down one more gate for you. So we've seen it in our preview of the Deutsch-Jose algorithm, but I want to define again the Hadamard gate for you, and in a slightly new way. So you could think of this as the sum of these two operations, poly x plus poly z over the square root of 2. And as a matrix, this would be written 1, 1, 1, minus 1, all over the square root of 2. If I apply Hadamard to the 0 states, I will get a superposition using our new terminology, 0 plus 1 over the square root of 2. And if I apply Hadamard to the 1 state, I'll get another superposition with a different relative phase, 0 minus 1 over the square root of 2. So in addition to memorizing the Pauli matrices, it's also going to be very helpful if you begin to memorize quantum gates, quantum operations. The Hadamard is going to be an important one. So this is another thing where the sooner you commit this to memory, the easier your life will be in this course. Let me make a quick remark about what I mean by isolated. So isolated appears in both of these postulates. An isolated physical system is one that does not interact with its environment. So you could think of this as, so what do we mean by isolated? You can think of this as, the entire universe, and then our particular physical system is living inside of that. So this would be our physical system. This would be the entire universe. A completely isolated physical system is one that does not interact at all with the outside environment, with the outside universe. That is an idealization, of course. Any real physical system is going to interact to a certain extent with its environment. So these two are idealizations in the sense that a perfectly isolated physical system is an idealization. But we'll come to see in Chapter 8, and 8.4 in particular, that in the subject of open quantum systems, which is where we treat the system not as isolated, or in other words, closed, but allowed to interact with its environment in some sense. These postulates are still true. In particular, the evolution postulate is still true. But when applied to the physical system plus the environment. So we'll see that postulate 2 is true for the system plus the environment. But if we're only concerned about the system, which we will be once we get there, then the evolution is slightly different. It's not going to be exactly unitary. That's going to lead us into noisy quantum operations, and for our context in this course, errors that happen in quantum computers. So the subject of open quantum systems is a very beautiful one and very deep one, and I want to mention it now because this is an idealization. No system is perfectly isolated, but this postulate will still be true when we apply it to a physical system plus its environment. Here I'm just going to write it as a general unitary operator in this course, and that's pretty much all we're going to care about. But where does this come from? This comes from Schrodinger's equation. So let me connect it back to this. So Schrodinger's equation, which we wrote down in the timeline, Schrodinger's equation is sort of the underlying principle here. That's slightly more general. This one says that I h bar d psi dt is equal to some operator that we call the Hamiltonian acting on the state psi. So h bar in the course we don't care about. This is just like a unit conversion thing. We work in units in which h bar is equal to 1. But the I is important, and so if this Hamiltonian is time independent, meaning it doesn't involve time, then this is a differential equation which we can solve rather easily. This states that the state psi prime, so that's psi at time t2, will be equal to the exponential, so the matrix exponential of this operator minus I times the Hamiltonian, minus I times the Hamiltonian, times the change in time delta t applied to the original state psi. So this delta t here would be the difference in time, t2 minus t1, psi being the initial state, psi prime being the final state. The Hamiltonian operator h is Hermitian, so h dagger is equal to h. And because of this, you can actually show, and I might ask you to on a homework, that the exponential of a Hermitian operator that you see in this form, minus I h delta t, is actually a unitary operator. Okay? So the underlying physical system, the underlying physics, is governed by this operator, which we call the Hamiltonian of the system. The evolution is always unitary. It's equal to e to the minus iht. And so in our course, especially when we're doing quantum algorithms and quantum circuits, we're just going to care that it's some unitary operation, some that connect to computing, like logical operations. But formally, under the hood, this is where it's coming from.